this article, it basically cites from Brickflow, the industry insights for February. It cites that we have just basically, even though we had 2 quarters of reducing our economy, that due to some surges in February, that we are just avoiding a recession. I know there was a lot of highly respected people at the beginning of this year who were really saying that we were going to have massive drop, in house prices, and how, things were going to be extremely tough. I kind of felt that there may be an adjustment, but I really felt that considering there is so much demand and such a lack of properties for rental and for, for purchasing, that I felt a correction might be right, but not this kind of touting that it might be 40% drop, 50% drop, and I think that is now starting to sort of be reflected. I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at. How does everyone else feel about it?
Well, I think it is very much a microclimate, and it does depend on how you look at it. So I have spoken to vendors who were selling their properties, who had offers last year which were massively in excess of market value. That then fell through more recently, and they are having these big drops of 15 to 20%. However, I feel that that's because the prices last year had been overinflated rather than it actually being a drop in this situation right now. If you look at the valuations that I've been looking at, and the ones that I'm hearing through from Rick surveyors, to me seem that there is a correction, but I wouldn't say any of this massive high scale drops that some people were predicting.
I can't help but agree with that. Just to bring your attention, in Clubhouse, Ingrid is trying to join us. I don't know how that works in terms of this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I will sort that out. Thank you for raising it for me. Oh, she's up here anyway. There we go.
Right. Okay. I think Hamish makes a good point, which is, where are you taking your bar from? So if you're taking your bar from Rick's valuations, then probably we're not going to see a 40% drop from Rick's valuations. But what you've got to remember is that at the height of the market, that people were paying 20, 25, 30% above Rick's valuations. So actually, if you take a 30% above Rick's valuation, which was the actual value of the property, and then you see a 10% drop below Rick's valuations, then you've got a 40% drop. So it's all about how you're defining that market. Are we going to see a 40% drop this year from Rick's valuations? I doubt that very much. Is there a bigger drop to come? Now, that's a very different question, madam.
In Fife in Scotland, where I'm based, where we've been talking to agents about properties, there seems to be less people looking at properties, but the prices, they're still going for over the asking price, so people are still prepared to pay more. So they're not, the agents aren't necessarily seeing a drop in what people are paying.
Yeah, interesting. I think for me.
So which part did you say Fife in Scotland? Which part of Fife is that? I take it that's places like St Andrews rather than places like Leven.
Glenrothes, actually, that's where we've been looking more recently. Yeah.
The centre of the universe, Glenrothes.
Absolutely.
I love it. So it is really, I mean, to me, it's so key, isn't it? Because you've got so many people that are being, terrified, and being told that, the cost of everything is crazy. And yes, there certainly is some definite changes in that, but I know personally my electric bills have massively reduced. That's just my home, that's just me. Maybe I'm a savvy purchaser, but I think in the news there is just so much fear mongering, as there always is. And in fact, funnily enough, I was listening to a podcast, and I listened to sort of 2 or 3 consecutive years, and they were literally podcasts a year apart. And each of them, every single one of them said, in our economic crisis that we're experiencing at the moment. And one was like 2018, 2019, then it went obviously into 2020, 2021, and then it was 2023. And all of them cited our economic crisis that we're having right now. And I think that's what I feel a bit sad, that we are now led, and there's so many people that have come to accept what is said in the news, what is said constantly, and it's almost like it's a, you know, to be constantly in this fear, I just think is personally, from a moral standpoint, not very good. So that's where I don't know everything at all, and I'm not experienced like Paul, and you know, all of us have got our own experiences, but what I'm looking for is finding places where you can actually look at the facts. So for instance, I'm also got here the Office for National Statistics, and they come out kind of a month or so a bit later, but this is the December 22 one, you know, and you look at since 2005, you know, housings have gone like that. You know, you might have the odd blip and that's fine, but exactly as Paul's spoken about, when you're looking at, you know, last year, let's say your property went up, you know, 14%, if this year it's dropping by 14% or 20%, it's actually only going to be a 5% drop over a 12 to 14 month period. So yeah, so it's sort of interesting where we get it from. I mean, where do you guys usually look for your information?
I think you've got to be very careful where you look for information. I remember during lockdown 2020, and there was Savills, one of the chaps in Savills, who was predicting this great drop in prices because of COVID. And I was recording a podcast at the time, strangely enough, that people can go back and listen to, called Property Development Live, because me and my wife were locked in the house and we had nothing better to do with our time. So we decided we did about 20 podcasts until we were let back out again. And I predicted actually that prices weren't going to drop at all, and that there might actually be an increase because there was pent-up demand. And once we were let back out again, people would buy. I predicted boats, houses and cars, all the big things that you couldn't buy when you were sitting at home off of Amazon, right? And somebody commented that was doing the podcast with me, but you know, Savills are saying, you know, that there's going to be this huge drop. And I said, yeah, let me take you to an article from 2007 when this same chap from Savills said that prices were just going to increase by roughly 20% in 2008. Which, if anybody remembers 2007 and 2008, that isn't quite what happened, right? And the market didn't quite go in the way that they predicted that it was going to go. So I think you've got to be very careful. But I have a bigger question, Emma. Right, and this is a much more important question. What difference does it make? You see, I've been in this job for 30 years now, right? Nearly as long as you guys have been born, obviously, by looking at you. And
I'll get you everywhere.
Yes, indeed. Usually. And honestly gets me a few places as well. And so we've lived through two crashes, if you like, one in the 90s and one in 2007. And here's a surprising thing. I made more money in 2008, 2009 and 2010 in property than I did in 2004, 2005 and 2006, which was supposedly the boom years. So my view, and incidentally the same was true in the 90s. I made more money in the 90s than I did in the boom periods in between. My view is people who make money in property in the boom years can't make money in property. What they do is rely on the market making them money.
Yeah. No,
they don't make any money. They rely on the market making them money. Actually, your test of your fibre, if you like, the test of your business acumen, the test of your ability really comes if you can make money when nobody else is. And one of the things I'm proud of is we kept developing through 2008, 2009 and 2010, and we were still selling developments when there was no liquidity in the market.